I mean, it's not like I'm gonna run out of stamina anyways. And as you can see, occasionally my weapon will bounce off of the Prey. That's because, well, it's not a very good sharpness level. But we'll take a look around the areas that I haven't showed off yet. Just take a quick look at them. We've already seen this area. We didn't get too good of a look at it, but we've kind of already seen it. And there's that balloon again. It gets everywhere. But here we can look over the mountain. I think this is close to the top of the mountain at least. Look at the clouds. Yeah, we're that high up. Oh, we've got some nice scenery. But really not too much to look at. So we'll move on. There we can see more of the mountains, some popos, no Velociprey here. So like I said, it was only those 3 areas. There's also some herbs around here that you can gather if you're interested, but since it's a tutorial mission, you'll lose them anyways. And here's the interesting feature with this area. There's a burnt down camp, and you can gather items. Also, this is the area from the cutscene where the big scary monster knocked us off the cliff. And here we are, where we remember when we were climbing in the one tutorial where I showed off sprint climbing? Well, we're all the way in the top here. We got a nice view of the area. But for now, we're gonna go back down to where those 2 Velociprey are. Taking a shortcut, jumping down. And there they are. And one shot dead. The great swords, to make a horrible pun, the great sword's pretty great. While it is slightly, well, actually it is pretty damning wielding, not just slightly. It takes a lot of skill to use this weapon properly. And I miss. The jerk. Oh well, we'll finish him off. Can be a little tricky to use this weapon. I've had a little bit of practice using it, at least while going through, well, while getting ready to do these tutorial videos and whatnot. And quest completed. You may be wondering why I'm showing the quest completed. I wanted to show another feature off that I almost forgot about. When you press the end button, you can sell all your loot for money instead. That's actually a new feature, and it's quite nice that you can just do that. Then it'll just be added to your reward money. But it was just that I wanted to show off. Next weapon, the longsword. Actually, I quite like the longsword, though I like the longsword better in later iterations. Now, I've barely used the longsword before, and the Monster Hunter Tree version of the longsword is a lot more interesting version of it, if you ask me at least. This weapon's speciality rather, is that it uses a special type of attack that's called Spirit. And there he talks about the Spirit gauge that I mentioned Spirit. But you need to fill up the Spirit gauge, and then you will basically gain more attack power, and your weapon will become sharper. Not permanently. Once the sort of buff wears off, then your weapon goes back down to where it should be. But unfortunately, these small fry, they're not enough to build up my spirit meter. So I will add a video at the end of this, where I actually just quickly take a really crummy weapon and and wail on it, and then show off the spirit. You can also expend your spirit gauge to make some really powerful attacks. Once your spirit gauge is filled up, your spirit gauge will not decrease. But let's take a look at the different attacks. You can do an overhead swing like that. And you can do a stab. And you can do a backward sweep, which is actually a pretty nice evasive maneuver if you can use it correctly. Usually the whole backward swing thing, you wanna use that as sort of your final attack when you want to put some distance between you and the monster. Also, pushing the R trigger without any spirit gauge will just do a sort of, well, it'll do a unique attack that you can combo up with other attacks as well. But the R trigger attacks are generally just using up spirit. And there he explains about the attack and sharpness will go up once you fill out the gauge. Yep. And then, well, you can actually push the R trigger to do spirit attacks, but it'll consume what you have. If you have maxed out spirit gauge, you can do a pretty powerful combo, and it won't take you out of the buffed up state of the spirit mode. Once you've filled it up and you just waste it away, it'll last for a certain amount of time, but that just means you kind of have to build it up again. But it doesn't take very long to build up, especially when you're fighting tougher monsters that can take more than 1 or 2 hits. Still, oh no, I quite like this weapon. Not my weapon of choice. But if this is what people vote on, oh, I won't complain. It's a pretty fun weapon. There you go. I just wanted to kill that Vespoid. And that red flash you saw there with my side swing, that was the sort of spirit attack. But for now, we have bigger things to kill. Not by far, though. Unfortunately, again, this weapons tutorial doesn't do this weapon justice. In fact, the reason why I'm running out here is because I remember that there is some monsters out there, and I'm hoping they could take a couple more hits, and that they'll stay kind of bunched together. But not really. I just thought I'd show off a few swings, practice a little with it, before and hoping that they would kind of bunch up while I was practicing. But no, they take 1 hit and they go down. I kind of get the spirit gauge filled up a little, but I decided just to waste whatever I had. Oh well. I promise, gentlemen, that I'll do the longsword justice with the video in the end. Okay, maybe not quite do it justice, but I'll show off its attacks. When you have your spirit gauge up, you have more. What I mean is that I prefer the later iterations of it. Is that it has several different spirit attacks, while as here you just have one type of spirit attack. Of course, I could just be blabbering and completely wrong because I didn't use the longsword very long in Monster Hunter 3, and my memory could be screwing up. let's take care of these last two Guillaprays. They're in the way. We have a sword. It won't be in the way much longer. Ah, we just barely hit him. There we go. And that was it for the Guillapray. Onwards with the video in the end. See you in the next tutorial video. Well, the weapons tutorial.